Madam Krista Butterfly is an author and successful part-time entrepreneur. She is half African American, half Ghanaian born and raised in the great state of Georgia. Her passion for fantasy writing evolved from the joy of creating new and exciting words for people to enjoy. Inspired by twin cultural heritages, she has a passion for weaving cultures and histories together to create fascinating new narrative tapestries. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's a pleasure to have Madam Krista Butterfly on the show. Welcome on the show, Madam Krista.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Yeah,
It's always fun to be here.
it's a pleasure having you again. And I want to say that I did love your book, Violent Evergreen in the Seed of Rebellion, and The Curse of the Frog Prince. I really enjoy both. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show to talk about them.
Thanks for having me again.
It's a pleasure. So, Madam Butterfly, I enjoyed your book, Violent Evergreen in the Seed of Rebellion, when I read it, and I'm curious to ask you what inspired you to write this book? How does the book come about?
Well, Violet Evergreen came about in an interesting way. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there is a story game called Episode. People upload their stories to it, and it's like this interactive storytelling. So I was playing Episode to take a break from working on my book that's still not finished yet. It's the first book I started, Bloody Crown. And while working on Bloody Crown, like I said, I was taking a break, playing some Episode, reading someone's story. And the story I was reading, I'm not going to name the name of the story because I didn't like it.
Oh.
And I don't want to diss somebody else's story, especially it looked like a lot of other people liked it. And, I don't want to give a fellow author, a bad rating when I'm not reviewing their book.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the story, and my brain started playing with ways to improve the story and improve the story and improve the story till I ended up with a completely different story, and that became Violet Evergreen.
Oh, that sounds very fascinating. It's quite great to know how the book came about. And now also, when I read Violet Evergreen, I was eager and looking forward to reading the second book series. And I can't wait to explore more and know about the story of Violet, about the story of the Lapels, and the pains that Violet experienced for many years. Tell us, how is the second book coming? How are you going about that?
The second book is coming fine. I'm expecting to publish that in 2024.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in that story, you're going to learn more of the secrets I know you were trying to find and everything else. But
Absolutely.
because the second book is so detailed, I don't think I'll finish it till 2024.
Oh, wow. I actually love the story with Violet herself. One of the things I found about the book is that it's very suspenseful. Every chapter would really want you to know what's coming up in the next chapter. You can't just predict what is going to happen. That's one of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to reading the second book series. And I want to say that's a very great job you're doing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
In your book, there are a lot of magic and spells, some of which you even wrote them out. I remember struggling to pronounce some while reading them. And I want to ask you, tell us, are those magic real, or it's the making of a personal concept with fantasy and magic realism? I'm just curious.
You asking me if magic's real in general, or are you talking about in the book?
I'm talking about the magic utilized in the book itself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what I did for every spell in the book is I did basic words. I wrote down basically what the spell was. Then I put it in Google Translate to translate it to Latin. Now, that's poorly translated Latin if I put it in Google Translate.
Yeah.
Then I cut up the words in a fun way and came up with fun pronunciations for what I cut up.
Oh, wow. I actually thought they are real magics.
Yeah, it feels that way because in mystical stories you always see somebody speaking Latin. I was it'd be fun if some Latin was involved, but then I'm being like, but I also want to keep this as far away from real magic-y mess as possible. So I'm gonna cut this up as well.
You remember that in the book, one of the protagonists, one of the characters would say that, do you remember this particular word? Say it at this certain time, and something like this would happen. And it was like, oh, there's a book we read back then. Whenever you open it and you read the magic, so things will happen. I remember one of the lapels using the magic in a hard manner, saying it, and she just move up. And again, another word will make her calm down, and it's just quite very magical and fantastically written.
Yeah, with all the magic, even though I play around with Google Translate to create the spells, I
Yeah.
want it all to have specific rules because I know people say when you write a magic book, you don't always need rules, but I like there to be rules with magic code. When things happen, it makes sense to the reader. The reader will be like, well, obviously that happened because they said this specific thing this specific way.
Yeah. Just
And
like
it makes it feel more real.
yeah, just like an incantation. Now, Madam Butterfly, could you tell us about your first book, Curse of the Frog Prince, which I have a copy here with me, and the second series too, Butterfly Tales? What inspired you to write both books?
With the Butterfly Tales and Curse of the Frog Prince, Curse of the Frog Prince, all the Curse of Frog Prince stories are part of the Butterfly Tales series. And I think I may have told you this story. The inspiration for these stories did start when I was working on Violet. I was refusing to write another story when some authors said it's good to have a bunch of shorter stories while you work on a bigger book. My brain was telling me, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not. I'm working on this Violet thing. I'm not. And then suddenly the ending to Curse of Frog Prince part one popped in my head. With
Oh,
part two, I found it very unique in the senses when I completed part one, I thought certain things were going to happen. But while working on part two, I got to know the characters better. And when I got to know the characters even more with part two, I realized that the story wasn't going into the direction I originally thought. It was going into this really new and more thrilling direction, which was very fun to write.
sounds very amazing and quite intriguing to hear. Now, in your book, Violet Evergreen and the Seed of Rebellion, I ate Auntie Drasilia and her husband. I don't know why. Just ate Auntie
I
Drasilia.
understand fully why. I made her somebody, well, Drusilla, I literally made her somebody you would want to slap. I thought, my family isn't violent. Who is somebody they would want to hit very badly?
And I understand that actually. I think this is a very style that is particular about fantasy books because while you're reading a book, you would feel some characters that you love so much, you admire them to the core, and there are some that you absolutely hate because of the characterization, because of their features and what is particular to them, what they always do, evil, wicked, and all of that, the way they speak, the way they behave. The characterization is just outrightly evil, and that's one of the reasons why I actually hate Entered Lucilia. And honestly, that's actually a very good method in terms of characterization. There are a few that most authors love to use. Some the characters create very admirable, very loving, and others like I hate this woman, I hate this man, even though
I
they.
know you hate that woman. I know you would be questioning yourself because you'd want to strangle her.
So,
Because I wanted to slap her myself when I was thinking about all this stuff because I know why she's doing what she did. And
oh,
when you find out, you're really not going to like her even more.
so I hate Auntie Drusilla and her husband Victor when I read the book. And even though I hate her, I still admire her characterization as she added a lot of spice and intriguing feature to the book. Tell us, how do you choose the characters?
Um, they just pop in my mind when I see my main character and when I figure out who my main character is, all the other characters just start to fall into place. And I'm starting to see how they work off of each other. And the more I explore the story, it's just the more they reveal themselves to me and tell me who they are.
That's great. That's quite fascinating to know. You also have a channel where you review books and do all the literary kind of stuff. Could you tell us about your channel?
I have my channel, Madam Crystal Butterfly, where I review books, mostly books by indie authors. If you guys check out my channel, you might find out a particular author's book that I recently reviewed, and you might really want to check it out after you see that video. AKA, his name might be Peter. I'm just saying his name might be Peter. Anyway, also, if you are an independent author and you want to get your book reviewed, just don't hesitate to contact me. And in exchange for a free copy of your book, I will do a book review.
That's great. And I also leave a link in the description part of this interview to the Madam Crystal Butterfly YouTube channel for viewers who would love to check it out. And also for authors who would be interested in sending a book for reviews. Now, I also want to ask you, Madam Butterfly, as authors, we all have different ways of reacting to feedbacks. And I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative criticism of your book, if you've ever had one in time past?
Well, I've had negative criticism towards my books. I don't mind negative criticism towards my book if you don't like the book, fine. At least you read it and that's your opinion, which you know you're entitled to your opinion.
Mm.
But only time I don't like negative criticism is when it's from somebody who clearly didn't read the book, because early on, one time in Amazon actually removed these reviews, but for Curse of the Frog Prince, I got a bunch of negative reviews that first made no sense. And then I could tell they weren't even talking about the book. And some of them felt like they were attacking me a bit, because then I would get other reviews. They weren't 5 stars, but it would say what they felt about the book. Then they would be looking like they were attacking the person who gave me a bad review. And Amazon removed these reviews. So I guess maybe they found it funny, or it could be because I also know these people did not buy the book. I'm not sure what happened, but that was the only time I would say negative reviews bothered me, because they clearly didn't read the book, or they skimmed it and made a decision. And the other reviews that bother me even more are people who give me 5-star glowing reviews and it's blatantly obvious that they did not read the book. I have one person, their review still up, where they said, oh, that this book is not just a good children's story, it's fun for the whole family. Now, Peter, in what world would you ever let a child read my book?
We have quite a lot, as authors, we have quite a lot of funny experiences with readers. Some people are just so hilarious in terms of their feedbacks and how they react to books. It's just quite funny. Absolutely. I also want to ask you, what are the challenges that you experience while writing your books? If there is any, could you share with us and how you ultimately overcame it?
I think the challenge with writing my books was originally worrying about whether or not people would like them. And when I got over that, it was also, I had to learn to decomplicate my writing, because I'm someone, when you ask me something, I explain everything. I feel the need to go into deep detail. And in books, you need to go into detail, but there is such thing as over explaining, and you can't treat your writer like they're a little kid who doesn't understand anything.
Yeah.
But you can't treat your reader like a little kid who doesn't understand anything. So thorough that I'm just over explaining too much. The reader will understand, but they'll get it confused if I explain way too much.
Yeah, that's great, actually. I love the idea about that. Next, I want to ask you, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book like yours? What do you tell people in this category?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid of social media. I know social media is a jerk.
It's a lot.
To get yourself out of publishing you take, whether it be self-publishing or traditional. If you don't get yourself on social media and let people see you as the author more, then people aren't going to take an interest in you. And also, don't hesitate to start talking a little bit about your book now. Don't hold yourself back with talking about your book and letting people know, hey, I wrote a book. Because if you hold yourself back like that, then it's just going to make it harder for you later when you're trying to promote the book.
Yeah, that's true. I really love your idea about this, and I'm hopeful that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. Please, where can viewers all be interested in getting a copy? Where can we get a copy of your books? Both books, Violent, Curse of the Frog Prince, and of course the second one.
All of my books are on Amazon, and you'll be able to find and read them. Also, I'm going to be launching a new book series with the Patreon that will be exclusive to Patreon.
Great.
But as of right now, all my books are on Amazon.
That's interesting. And I left a link in the description part of this interview for viewers who would love to get a copy of our books on Amazon, Violent Evergreen and the Seed of Rebellion. I left a link in the description part because of the Frog Prince also and the other book. So thank you so much, Madam Crystal Butterfly, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a very great pleasure.